What role should our male allies be playing? What role should and can they play in the fight for gender equity and the fight against gender violence? Any?
Yeah, I'm of the philosophy that being an ally should be hard. Being an activist should be hard. If it's not hard, you're not doing enough. And that's something that I practice in my own activism and advocacy is am I feeling uncomfortable? Am I feeling unsafe when tackling racial justice issues? Am I doing enough to tackle white supremacy? Am I doing enough to tackle transphobia? If I'm not doing enough, I'll know, because I always feel like there's something else I can do. So I think when it comes to male allies in this space, and not just in gender-based violence, but just in workplace discrimination, everyday sexism that we see, whether it's harassment on the street or just the way that women are treated in the boardroom, at some point we have to do more than just show up. And sometimes it means not taking that speaking engagement. Sometimes it means not taking that board position. Sometimes it means simply just sitting and listening rather than saying something. Because that's the only way we're actually going to get to equity in this country. It's when women and men have equal footing.
Are you saying men don't listen enough?
I don't think you should really get an award for just showing up. And I think it's okay to say that. And I see myself, as a person who oftentimes passes as white, as a person who's documented, as a child of refugees who is not afraid of being deported. I always find myself being able to do more for people in Latino communities, in LGBT spaces, in women's spaces. Sometimes I'll say no. Sometimes I won't say anything because sometimes it's my role as an ally, and being an ally means listening and learning from people who know a lot more about an issue than I do. And it's about being the person that not just advocates for them, but sponsors them financially, but also professionally, and also make sure that they are in the room to share their story, but to also give the expertise that they have lived.
And you make a great point about turning down a speaking engagement, not taking that board appointment, but it's also making sure that a woman, person of color, gets that opportunity, because you say no, and that doesn't mean they're not going to put another white guy in there, right? So you got to be a little bit more. You had to be an advocate as well as knowing when to say no.
And absolutely, and I think we said it earlier in the beginning, and we were kind of laughing, but it's a big deal for an organization like Women Employed to have women of color on a panel. I mean, I'm sure we can all agree that sometimes we have been the only one in a panel. And I think it's 2018, and if an organization like Women Employed is showing face and doing this and putting a panel that represents the women who are being impacted by gender-based violence or being impacted by harassment, it says that their commitment goes beyond just this event. It's something that is deep to their core, that they care not just about harassment, but also racial justice, about inclusivity, about including young people, about including anyone who is impacted by this issue. And I think that goes well beyond just this event. And I only wish that this is something that could be replicated across other organizations. And that's why I think that Women Employed really is leading the way in making this conversation as accessible as possible.
Thank you. Male allies,
well,
what should they be doing?
I think the idea that women and men and people across gender identities are not fundamentally interdependent is just not, it's just not real. I mean, I just don't understand how we achieve equality in this country without men being protagonists in that fight too. We cannot do this alone. I mean, we're in this together in this country. Equality and equity are values. They're not one group of people or another group of people. And if we want equality and equity in this country, we have to do it together. And we'll play different roles at different times. But one thing that is happening is, I think, an incredible culture shift around the kind of, especially around sexual harassment and sexual violence, that is starting to happen. And a lot of people are talking about, there's going to be a backlash, right? And I guess I think that there doesn't have to be. Like, it can just be the future if we decide that this is our future. But the only way that's real is if men take responsibility for that project as much as we do, as much as women do.
Fabulous. Monica.
I think that too often issues like sexual harassment are sort of put in the category of women's issues. And I think that we need to just see sexual harassment and gender inequality as an issue that affects, it's a universal issue. It's not a women's issue. And sometimes I hear people say, well, men should care about this issue because they have sisters and they have moms and they have daughters. Men should care about this issue because it is right to care about this issue. And I think to the extent that people have talked to me about, being confused around, what is sexual harassment, or how should I get engaged, or how do I become part of the conversation? I think that what we need male allies to do is to name the things that they're confused about, to ask the questions so that we can help answer them to the extent that we know the answer. To the extent that we don't know the answer, then let's have a conversation together about the conversations that we're grappling with. But I think communication is key, and having open and frequent conversations about these tough issues and dreaming together about what it is that we want for this country and this world are all crucial pieces, and raising boys who understand the importance of equity from the get-go. I have a 5-year-old son, and he comes with me as many places as I can take him, and I feel like one of my chief responsibilities in this world is to raise my little boy to understand that what equity is and how we all have a role in fighting for it. And so I think male allies, we need you at the table. We need you marching with us. We need you to be speaking about these issues when we're not in the room, because it shouldn't only be when women are in the room that we're talking about these things. And we need to be true partners in this.